Aloha nerds, and welcome to the Toy Podcast for Schmucks. On this podcast, I talk about toys in some way or fashion, not a news, but just if I pick something up or if I'm excited about something I'm working on. In this particular episode, I'm going to tell you about this diorama back here. I've been watching diorama videos on Instagram a lot in the last few years. It was an interesting thing. Actually, my friend, my nerd brother, he was the one who originally wanted to start doing dioramas. I was less interested. I'm like, yeah, I'd rather pay someone to do it. But I've been very broke in the last few years. So all of a sudden, I have all these toys. Me and my nerd brother toy hunt together all the time. And now I just have all these toys, but not nearly enough shelf space for them. So it occurred to me, well, why don't I make the shelf space for them? I already have some miniature shelves. Some of them are supposed to be hung or nailed to walls, and others are already kind of standing shelves that can just sit on top of a desk or a shelf. And so my first one here, I decided to make as a building. It's supposed to be the Daily Bugle. And I've already populated it with some characters, but it was just made out of cutouts of foam. It had a metal frame, so I put magnetic tape on the insides of that foam. I went to Hobby Lobby and I got a couple pieces of paper that had sort of the brick drawing, and I just sort of pasted it. It's very simple, it's very ugly, but they also had these kind of wooden frame things that are supposed to be, on buildings or whatever. All in all, I got all these things from Hobby Lobby and just really pasted this little monstrosity together, and actually it kind of looks okay. Once I had some foam that I got from packaging from like various things in the mail. Like my friend got her son a laptop, and I asked, hey, can I have the foam out of that box, out of the box for the laptop? And I just started cutting it up to make it interesting shapes. I try to make it look like, because I did such a bad job, I really felt I did a terrible job with this, my first attempt at making a diorama. I thought the best thing I could do is like, okay, if I'm already screwing up, it already looks like shit. I'll just carve up some of that foam from the laptop, paint it, and make it look like there was an explosion. So that way it kind of has a motivation for looking so bad. It was always in my mind, it was the Green Goblin who blew this place up. And so I started doing that. I felt a little bit better about that. Maybe I'm better at, custom shaping and, painting. I don't know. But either way, this was the first iteration. As I was making this one actually took me like 6 months because I moved, and so all my stuff was all over the place. It took a while to find everything and also get more materials because I kept having more ideas of how to make it, including putting lights on the inside. But now that looks so hokey, I'm like, I need to get, and then in the next one, I need to do something to make the lights look a little more natural. But so when I made this one, I thought it'll mostly just be a facade, and it's really just my friend's mail. She got a mail. I forget what was in it, but it was a box that I thought, oh great, I want a building to sort of be in the back, but also be a backdrop for more figures. So I painted it all gray. I wanted the buildings to look distinct from each other. They didn't just all look like the same type of building. And then also I had, like I said, one of those hanging shelves. I was like, I've been using this for other toys, and it just feels like when I use it for those toys, it's not really utilizing the space. And so I decided, this will be the balcony. So this building will be a proxy for the building from the first Spider-Man movie where Green Goblin attacks. Again, Green Goblin's a kind of running theme, Green Goblin blowing things up. Because, that first Spider-Man movie is still one of my absolute favorite Marvel movies. Marvel Legacy for sure. And so, sort of inspired by that, I had this Mary Jane with the collapsing balcony piece. So I just attached that to it, put on some of that foam. Again, this is after this one, so I had really thought, okay, let's use the foam. Again, it's very shoddy. It's really my first attempt at doing this stuff. It looks like crap. But when I finally put it all together, and on the inside I put lights and stuff, and I cut up a bunch of comic book board. You know, you get the plastic sheets and board for comic books. So I cut up a comic book board and I made blinds. I made blinds for a window, and I put them in most of the windows, and it actually looks pretty natural overall. So there's a level of improvement. Of course I did, and then I also put, for both buildings, I had all this plastic sheets from all the toys that I had, and I thought, I don't want to waste this. I want these to be windows, and actually I've been saving these for over a year, planning to make these things. So I put in all the plastic sheets, and it looks pretty natural overall, except that they don't really look like windows, you know. But, you know, having done it all together, I think as a set, it kind of looks, it's fun to look at. So with all the figures, it kind of looks like it has a life. And so this is my very first attempt at making dioramas, and hence the title, Toy Podcast for Schmucks. I love the movie Dinner for Schmucks. A friend of mine who also loves toys showed me this movie, and I remember the first time I watched it, I was totally on Paul Rudd's side. These people are crazy. Watching it again so many years later, and it was actually right before I really committed to making these, because I'd started the work, but I hadn't really committed to making a diorama. But after seeing Dinner for Schmucks again, and seeing Steve Carell, and I really thought these little dioramas were beautiful. I thought, this is amazing. It's exactly what I've been envisioning in my head, except he's doing it with taxidermy rats. Now, maybe that was the reason I didn't like it so much the first time. I was like, I was just thinking about taxidermy rats. But, you know, getting out of that, you know what I mean? Just when you think about what he's made, it's like, it is pretty beautiful and incredible. And the fact that he came up with a story for all of these dioramas, I thought that was wonderful. So that's really always what I had in mind for making my own dioramas. Ever since I was a little kid, watching commercials where there was these impressive dioramas and kids smashing toys and toy cars through false buildings and things. Ever since I was a kid looking at that, I always wanted it for myself. And unfortunately, as I grew up, I became insecure with liking toys and being a nerd, because even though Spider-Man had come out, it just still was not a socially acceptable thing. Now being a nerd is literally the same as being a fan of football. They're basically treated the same. I really wanted to sort of show there's something going on here. We got the bad guys arriving, and we got the heroes arriving. And then there's some bad guys mixed up with the heroes, and then we got the Eternals up top. Everyone's kind of going through their own adventure, and everyone's kind of got something that's got their attention in the moment. And I do intend to get more toys to add to this, but this is the first time I've expressed myself with my love of toys in the form of diorama and all that. And with lighting, because I've always wanted lighting, just like in the ads. And hopefully someday I will have the actual money to either construct these better, but primarily hire real talented people like High School Creations or Danny NYC, these really wonderful creators of dioramas. I would love to have a professionally made diorama set, not just to play with and pose my toys, which obviously I enjoy doing, but I would love to make my own little ads or my own little videos with toys, just like I watched as a kid. That's kind of something I would like to do in the future. I love superheroes, I love movies, and specifically, you see, I don't like the cartoon one, I like the live action. I like seeing what would this look like in the real world. That to me is like, how can you beat that? You know, I think the first Iron Man and the first Spider-Man and X-Men and Blade, all of those are examples of how you could really do this in a legitimate, fun, beautiful way. So that's what I got to say. This is my first episode, just talking about making this diorama. It was a really fun time. I'm really happy with how it's come out now. Like I said, once it was populated with toys, it didn't really matter so much that my workmanship was shoddy. Now that I've done it a couple times, I have a slightly better idea of how I'll do it next time. So it's been a blast, and thank you for letting me share. In other episodes, I'll be talking about sometimes what I call, it's not a diorama, but an arrangement. So I have some videos about that, and I'll be getting to that in future episodes. But thanks for checking out my first episode, and I'm still working out what this channel is going to be exactly, but I did want this to be something that was more kid-friendly. In my movie review podcast channel, I curse a lot, I'm naughty, I'm more adult and mature. But for toys, because again, this is something that hit me when I was a kid, I am making this to be accessible to kids. I'm not necessarily saying it's for kids, but the whole intent of these podcasts is to also be accessible to kids, because that's where these fantasies began. I was a little kid watching those wonderful toy ads where they had dioramas and breakaway things, and you saw kids smashing things, and I would just, if you're a little kid out there and you don't know how to do this, well, hey, I just made this out of a shelf I got from Ross with some foam and literally the plastic sheet that the toys come in. So you can do this too. You can start now and do something that's not great, but just that experience will teach you how to do it better next time. And I know a lot of people have 3D printers nowadays, and it's way easier, but there is something fun about sort of the arts and craftiness of just having to figure it out yourself, because then you'll appreciate what the other technology can do. So yeah, that's what I got to say. This is my diorama baby. This is my first time really trying to make a diorama. Someday my vision is to make a huge bat cave, to feature all the Batmobiles across the Tim Burton movies, Schumacher movies, and the really my favorite, the Christopher Nolan movies. I would just cap it at that. And I think I'm a fan of scale, so I'm also intending to make a little city diorama for, you see I have right here the Tyrannosaurus Rex Super 7, and here I have Godzilla 98. So my hope is in the future to, well, not my hope, my goal in the future is to make a little city diorama for them, and just keep everything to scale, because I have toy cars that'll be perfect for that. And when that's ready to look at, I'll make a video for that. So this is not going to be a weekly podcast. It'll just come out as I have things to show and talk about. But this is just me putting it out there for the first time. Welcome to the toy podcast for Schmucks. If you're a nerdy little schmuck like me, then maybe you'll get a kick out of this. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Thank you.